make sure I was like, yes.
Okay, it is 5:16 on Thursday, May 9th, 2024, and I call the meeting of the Infrastructure and Facilities Committee to order. The first item on the agenda is to elect the chairperson for the 2024 and 2026 term. So, any nominations? Yes, Alder Neal.
Thank you. Well, in the interest of continuity for this committee, I would nominate Alder Larson to return to the helm.
Alder Lyson, do you accept?
I do not.
You do not? Okay.
And in turn, I nominate Chan Hakey.
Okay, Alder Hanky, do you accept?
Yes.
Okay, any other nominations for
But
chair?
thank you, Tom.
Any other nominations for chair? No. Okay. With that, is there a motion to close nominations for chairperson?
I would move to close.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second. Okay. All in favor of casting unanimous ballot for Alder Hanky, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Okay, that passes 5-0. And then at that, I will turn the meeting over to Alder Hanky.
Thank you, Caitlin. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 2, second part of agenda item number 1, vice chair, election for vice chair. I guess I'll take nominations for vice chair. Can I nominate someone?
I would nominate Alder Martins.
Okay, I got a nomination. Ms. Alder Martins, do you accept the nomination?
I'll accept.
Okay. Can I nominate someone?
Yeah.
All right, I'll nominate Alder Larson. Alder Larson, do you accept?
I'll accept, yes.
Okay, so we need to vote. Any other nominations? Okay, close the nomination process and we'll go for votes.
Take that pen.
Thank you. So that's 4.
Okay, with a vote of 4-1, Alder Larson is elected vice chair.
Thank you.
I see the agenda. That'll move us on to item number 2, establish regular meeting date and time for the 2024 through 2026 term of the Infrastructure and Facilities Committee. We typically are the second Thursday of every month at 5:15.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
That works for me. I would move to approve continuing that time and day.
I guess I have one question, if we could move it to 4? I don't know if that interferes with anything at the city.
Does anybody have employment issues?
You do? Okay. We'll keep it at 5:15. So a motion to keep it second Thursday of every month at 5:15. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
A second by Alder Larson. Any more discussion? With that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Move on to agenda item number 3, approval of minutes from the April 11th, 2024 meeting. Any changes, notes?
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes.
All right, I got a motion to accept the minutes from Alder Larson. Can I get a second? Second by Alder Neal. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Oppose? No? All right, that passes unanimously. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, discussion and possible action on installation of angled parking stalls on McIndoe Street between 3rd Street and 4th Street, on 4th Street between Grant Street and McIndoe Street, and on Franklin Street between 4th Street and 5th Street. Is this Eric, or you want to start Alan, start the discussion on this one?
Sure, I don't have a real lot to say on it. I mean, the letter was included that tried to help explain this, and also there was some maps that show the locations of the stalls. I don't have a real lot more to add on that. I know there's representatives from the YMCA here and REI, so I guess if you have questions, to direct them at them, or maybe they have an introduction they want to give to the reasoning for the parking, but
We'll let them go first, and then maybe they'll answer your question.
Sure. Brian Bailey, CEO of the Woodson YMCA. So the reason in the parking is, it has to do with the Landing Senior Activity Center. We've seen tremendous growth over the 4 years that it's been open, in fact, more than we would ever imagine. It has to do with proximity parking for a project that we're doing that will expand the landing about 12,000 square feet with a new entrance off of 4th Street, which will now allow these parks for individuals who have more difficulty getting into our facility. We originally had a different plan. We worked through planning. They said, that's not what we'd like to see. So we came, and they said, talk with city staff, and we came up with some options that I think are actually much better than what our original plan was. So that's what the reason is for it. It's all very close proximity parking to this new approximately $5 million expansion project that'll take place for the landing. Be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay. Alder Larson?
I don't have any questions, but I see this as a vital part of revitalizing downtown. The Y needs this for expansion. I can't emphasize enough how, you know, I spoke with the person who's in charge of the trust, that where the money's coming from for this, the foundations, and frankly, if the parking doesn't happen, the expansion's not going to happen. And one hand washes the other here. If you don't have the parking, you can't expand. And so I highly recommend that my colleagues go forward and move this forward. Thank you.
Alder Neal?
Has there been a motion yet? I mean,
No,
I would
still
make a
discussing.
motion to accept the proposed parking slots. I could just add, maybe I should wait for somebody to second before I add a comment.
Sure.
I'll second.
All right, second by motion by Alder Neal, second by Alder Larson.
You know,
Alder
I
Neal.
love trees, and I hate to see, you know, so many trees gone because of this, but I see it as really a necessary, you know, thing to do. I do hope perhaps, you know, in construction, we might find ways to at least do some beautification associated with the project in some way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Alder Martins?
Okay, yeah, I don't really have a question, but I do have a comment, just to kind of echo what Alder Neal said about the trees. I am glad to see that there's a proactive tree plan here, because I don't like to see trees unnecessarily removed. The trees that are going to be removed are in a variety of conditions, but since they are going to be replacing one-to-one, that is good to see, and working towards protecting the trees in Yawkey Park, which I think is going to be crucial. My biggest concern is the traffic flow on 4th Street, and it appears that there seem to be some bump outs, especially on the intersection of Franklin and Fourth, are those intended to be traffic calming devices? Or is there anything in that nature that's going to help try to keep the traffic moving at a slower pace?
Tom Rentz from REI, 4080 North 20th Avenue. They're similar to the same thing that we did on 3rd Street, where we have the pedestrian crossing. And the goal is to make safe crossings and to, you're right, traffic calming so that people bring attention or the cars are drawing attention to it's a safe crosswalk. Because we're also going to be utilizing the building, the 404 Franklin building, for a variety of different uses at the Y. And so there'll be traffic at that 4th and Franklin intersection. So that was a cause for the bump out as well.
Okay, yeah, I do like to see stuff like that, especially in that intersection, because I know that people do drive through there in a variety of speeds. So I think, yeah, traffic calming would be crucial there.
Any other discussion? I guess when I first looked at this, I'll just add my 2 cents. I was concerned about the stalls in front of Yaki Park there. All the other ones, they all abut up to YMCA property. We got this letter explaining the different healths of the trees along there and how they were going to replace them. So that has made me feel better about it. I guess that's my 2 cents. Any other discussion? All right. With the motion on the table from Alder Neal and a second from Alder Larson, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, none opposed, that passes. We have agenda item 14, which kind of ties into this, and I think it's appropriate to bump that up to now. It was part of the amendment. So I guess we'll move on to agenda item 14, discussion and possible action on approval of dedication of right-of-way at 404 Franklin Street. This,
Yeah, I can give a little explanation to that. So those maps you saw in the previous item, which showed the angle parking on that lot on Franklin Street. So when we put those angled parkings in there, that takes away the sidewalk. So the addition of this right-of-way would allow us to keep the sidewalk. It would put the sidewalk in the dedicated right-of-way. So basically, the right-of-way is needed so we keep a public sidewalk along there.
so it would yeah, make the right-of-way of the street a little wider right there?
Right.
Okay,
It's shown on the map there. It's approximately 6.2 feet on that lot to get that parking, to make the angled parking work and to keep the sidewalk. Or else the sidewalk would be on private property, which we wouldn't want. We want to keep that public.
okay. All right, any other discussion? Alder Larson?
I would like to make the motion and to approve item 14.
Okay, I got a motion from Alder Larson. Do I got a second? Second from Alder Neal. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now we'll jump back to agenda item number 5. Discussion and possible action on easement for a skywalk across 3rd Street at the YMCA. Alan again? or-
Yeah, the exhibit map is in there, but perhaps you want to hear from the YMCA representatives to see why they're looking for this.
Sure, I would invite them forward.
Chuck Adorsey, I serve on the architectural team. That skywalk has become extremely important in terms of our field of parking in the future. It ties in specifically to our new entry, which is a nice entry that comes off of 4th Street, and it goes up to the 3rd level, if you would, of our new expansion that Brian had mentioned. So in the future, it becomes critical in terms of us creating enough parking, both for the landing and for the YMCA. And so it should be something nice, very functional, and we look forward to presenting a plan for that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think,
Yep, go ahead, Eric.
I think the one thing about this is it really is going to eliminate pedestrian conflicts with traffic coming across 3rd Street in the future. So it opens up that parking over on 3rd Street and then allows people safe access into the landing and into the Y. So I think this is a good option for the future and really ties both sides of the street in for the Y.
I heard a lot about this was for the landing. Is it going to be or solely for the landing? Is there going to be access to the regular Y from the skywalk?
Basically, right now, we're looking at the landing, and we'll look at some other plans as it relates to the Y in the future, but right now, it's really dedicating an area for the landing to expand their parking.
Okay. Guess I would encourage that because I've crossed third Street there enough times. I would use it just to get into the Y, so thank you. Alder Larson?
I would make a motion then to accept and approve item number 5.
All right, I got a motion from Alder Larson. Oh, we got a second from anyone? Second from Alder Neal. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay. No one? That passes unanimously. We'll move on to agenda item number 6, discussion of possible action on access easement at 1937 through 1939 Milwaukee Avenue for the Northwestern Lift Station.
So we have an existing permanent easement for access to this lift station, and we just did a full upgrade on the lift station this year. Previously, we were sharing a driveway with the residents there, and we had the easement to cross that. We widened that driveway out so that we have a dedicated access, so we're not in conflict as part of that upgrade. And so really, the easement stays the same, there's no change, other than the fact that it now states that the utility has its own driveway, and that will maintain that driveway and drive approach appropriate.
I have a question.
Alder Neal.
So on the part that is the residence property, is there any improvement or remediation we need to do after leaving, going over to our dedicated right of way? Is there? I mean, have we left any scars or anything like that?
No, we've actually made some improvements on that approach for them, yeah, as part of this project. Yeah.
Any further questions, discussion? So we'll look for a motion. All right, I got a motion to approve the access easement on Milwaukee Avenue for the Northwest Lift Station from Alder Martins. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Alder Larson. Any further discussion? See none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed? That passes unanimously. On to agenda item number 7, discussion of possible action on easement with WPS at 144 West Washington Street.
So the library needs to upgrade their electrical service, and in order to do that, they're coming across that parking lot that is a city-owned parking lot to the west of the library. So WPS is requesting an easement to put that line in there for the library.
Did they do other upgrades there recently too?
I'm not real familiar with all their upgrades. I know their HVAC was being upgraded.
I saw it was all tore up right there
Yeah.
recently.
I'm not familiar with all their upgrades. I just know this is what came across for their need, because it's a city lot off the library's property, and for some reason they can't go on their own property, so they need the. I don't see an issue with the easement. It'll get bored through there. If they do disturb something, they'll replace the pavement.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Otherwise, we'll take a motion.
I will make a motion to approve as presented.
All right, so I got a motion to approve from Alder Neal. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Alder Larson. Any further discussion? See none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No one's opposed. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 8. Discussion and possible action on streets and overlay, streets for asphalt overlay utilizing ARPA funding. This is,
Mr. Chair.
yes?
And when I was looking at the packet, I don't have it in front of me because it said that we had, you and I were the only ones left from that. We decided not to do Pine Ridge, I believe, that circled around the hospital. But it also said in the packet that we decided not to do Sherman Street. And we did not decide not to do Sherman Street. We decided to do Sherman Street. And I'm wondering why we're doing Sherman Street only from 8th Street to 7th Street instead of doing the whole thing like from 3rd to 17th. And I'm wondering also why, if you remember, Sherman Street was not taken off, as it states in the packet.
Mr. Chair?
Alder Neal.
I mean, wasn't Sherman Street just pretty much redone, that whole strip between 17th and 3rd? I don't know, 7 years ago, something like that? There was I mean,
It's pretty bad if you've been over it lately. It's all lumpy and it's,
Is that a chip seal or something that was done on there? I don't
Maybe,
know.
Alan, maybe?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not sure where you got that from, but Sherman Street isn't I mean, it's still on the map, and it's still recommended to be done between 8th and 17th. And the reason that's being done, and maybe Chad Beal from DPW can speak to it a little bit, but there was a chip seal put on that, and that chip seal is flaking off or coming off in some pretty bad areas. When they're plowing it, they're knocking out the chip seal. So the reason for this mill and overlay is to mill off the top of the asphalt and that chip seal to get a good surface back on it. It's not a full depth mill. It's just taking off the top 1.5 inches and putting it back. That is included in here from 8th to 17th, which is the worst section of Sherman. Yeah, correct. So on the other side of Sherman, from 3rd to 8th, there's lead service laterals, so that's kind of why we stopped there.
okay.
So maybe I can go over if the map is included if you all have the map. So that I did, that was understood at the last meeting that your preference was to take Pine Ridge Boulevard off. So that was my staff recommendation, trying to get all the other streets on this map, including Sherman Street, done with the $500,000, minus Pine Ridge Boulevard. And I think with the combination of bidding the majority of it out and possibly having DPW take some of the asphalt money and pave one of these streets to save some of the money, I think we can get all these streets done for $500,000. So that's my recommendation. And again, these streets, I know people ask, why are we doing these streets? So what we tried to do, we tried to pick streets that were in 2 to 3s that had very little or no lead service laterals. I know there's streets that are just as bad or worse, but the majority of those that are bad or worse have the lead service laterals, so we don't want to start overlaying those yet. So everyone on here has very minimal. It may have, it may have one at an intersection somewhere, but for the most part, there's no lead service laterals in these streets. So that's why they were picked.
I think I see Alder Larson's confusion. It does say staff recommends eliminating Pine Ridge Boulevard from this committee, and Sherman Street due to the fact that it's the highest pavement rating. So that's a typo.
Well, yeah, I apologize for that. I think with eliminating of the 320,000 on Pine Ridge, we can get those done.
Okay. Just wanted for the record.
Yep. I apologize. I didn't see that at the bottom.
Okay. Alder Larson?
Then I'll make a motion that, I'd like to make a motion that we accept item 8 as was drawn up by the city for their asphalt relay.
So that would be without Pine Ridge Boulevard and with Sherman Street?
That would be with Sherman Street,
Okay.
without Pine Ridge.
Okay. So I have a motion to for asphalt overlay using ARPA funds. The list in agenda item number 9 minus Pine Ridge Boulevard. Do I have a second? Second by Alder Neal. Any further discussion? See none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. Okay. So we'll move on to agenda item number 9. Discussion and possible action on reconstruction of Second Street from Short Street to DeKalb Street. Alan, is this you again?
Yes, so in working with the finance department, Mary Ann Grote, she had brought up that there may be some funding in TID 3 to reconstruct a smaller section of street. So if you're familiar with, Short Street was just done, or it's actually not done yet. It's almost done. It needs the surface course of asphalt, and it'll be done. First Street was done about 5 years ago. So this would kind of button up that whole area with the completion of Second Street between Short and DeKalb. So just one of the streets we wanted to look at. If the TID 3 funding is available, I'd like to look at reconstructing this street in 25.
Do you know, are there lead laterals under that one? Is that a lead main?
Yes,
Okay.
there are lead service. It's in very poor shape, and it is all lead service laterals. Habitat for Humanity is putting a house on there and the other lot. So I was kind of waiting for this street to get developed, but when Habitat for Humanity puts that house on there, and then I believe that the one on the corner of DeKalb and Second is getting developed too. So the development in that block will be complete. There was a thought of the last block between DeKalb and Bridge is kind of out there for development yet. Those are all empty lots. So we didn't want to do that last block of Second between DeKalb and Bridge just because it may get developed, or it may be part of a larger development. We're not sure what's going to happen up there. So I don't want it. That last block is in bad shape, but I don't really want to get into that block and have something develop there. So I think it makes sense to wait on that last block.
Okay. Any discussion, any more questions? Alder Larson?
I'll make a motion, we move forward with staff recommendations then.
Okay, I have a motion from Alder Larson to move ahead with reconstruction of Second Street from Short Street to DeKalb Street if funding is available from TID 3 in 2025. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Alder Martins. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed? Okay. We will move on to agenda item number 10, discussion and possible action on reconstruction alternatives for 28th Avenue from West Hill Drive to West Wausau Avenue. And Alan, I think this is you again.
Yes, so this is a big discussion here. This has kind of been in the works for a long time, and the 5-year plan, which we have it showing for 2026 construction. So to get design rolling and topographic survey, we need to start looking at some alternatives out there. So I presented all those alternatives in the packet. I do have them on large scale plots over there, and I guess my plan was to bring them up on an easel and kind of walk through them and go from there. So I don't know if anybody from the audience they're going to be facing towards the council members here. So if you want to come up and come back around, that way you can see what we're presenting, if that's okay with.
Maybe, yeah, maybe we can scroll down on the agenda, and I think they're in the packet.
Thanks, Brett.
Alan, can you hit number, I think it's number 2 on the light switch over there?
Yeah. I hit it. Did it do anything?
Yep, thank you. I don't know if it'll be bright enough for us now, but
I think that would probably be sufficient. I don't know if we need that way everybody could see.
Okay, we can do that. We can do that. I guess if we have issues, we can look at it on
We don't want this to redo.
No.
We want this.
okay. So I guess you can scroll down. So this is,
Do you want to just go to the podium or back to your seat or something? So.
so I'm sure you're all familiar with 28th Avenue, and it's been on the reconstruction list for a long time because the county was going to reconstruct that. They had purchased all the right-of-way up through there, which comes on one of the alternates that we're going to look at. The county has since decided that they're not going to reconstruct that. So kind of left the city kind of in a lurch here. In meetings with the Village of Maine, they do not wish to reconstruct their part either. And so it kind of leaves the city on their own here, what we're going to do with 28th Avenue. So up in engineering, we've been looking at some alternatives. What can we do to reconstruct 28th Avenue? So I just want to start out, I'm just going to grab my sheet. Just to give some perspective on the average daily traffic up there. The average daily traffic on 28th Avenue is about 1,700 cars a day, which some people I think have the thought that it's more. And that's kind of one of the reasons the county backed off on it, because it's in their defense, that's only 1,700 cars a day. As compared, if you look at something like Bridge Street, is 16,000 cars a day, 10 times as much. I tried to look at some of the other where you consider the hills in town. If you go out on Town Line Road east of Northwestern has about 2,700 cars a day. That's about 1,000 cars more a day. Franklin Street has about 3,800 cars a day. So Franklin Street roughly doubles the traffic as 28th Avenue. So it just give you a perspective as how many cars a day it actually does handle. So I guess one of the options, if you look at 20th Avenue, is to reconstruct it right the way it is now. I know you've all been out there. There's great challenges with the grade, as well as the ditches are in terrible shape. There's rock, so it presents a challenge. I think if you go to the next screen, or the next slide. And it's going to be hard to read. If you look at some of the, if you look at some of the existing grades up there, on the top of the hill, they were at like 19% grade, pushing a 20% grade going up that hill. So it's obviously very steep. So that's one of the options, reconstruct it in place.
Do we have other streets similar grade?
No,
I guess
not.
anything.
Well, I mean,
what's close, like Town Line?
Town Line and Franklin.
Any idea? Sorry to drop this on you, but
Yeah, I haven't done the grades on those. I mean, I could bring those back to this committee. I don't know off the top of my head. They're not, I would guess they're not as steep, or as long. This is a long, Franklin it levels out towards the bottom, but, so yeah, so one of your options, reconstruct it right the way it is. So and then you look at the next option, calling it option 2. So now, option 2, the way we looked at was is if you cut off 28th Avenue. So you would dead end, if you're coming in town from the north, you'd dead end it basically Mary Ann Street, cul-de-sac that there. You could cul-de-sac Maple Creek Drive. It says Maple Hill, but it actually has been changed to Maple Creek Drive. And you'd send traffic up Madonna. If you look at that, I think we could flatten out that curve a little bit too. It looks like a pretty sharp corner there, but I think if we looked at purchasing a little property, maybe from the corner there, maybe we could flatten out that curve a little bit. Now, when you go and you look at, if you look at the grades at that on Madonna, don't know if you can zoom into that, Brad, or, yeah. So, you know, the grades on Madonna are pretty good. Madonna has recently been repaved, so it's in decent condition. And Madonna, another advantage to using Madonna is that it is all in the city of Wausau. The entire street between 32nd and 28th, all those streets are in the city of Wausau. So if we look at the next option, Brad, if you can flip down. You know, kind of one of the next options that's pretty, kind of just the next evolution of it is to go up Maple Creek Drive. It looks a little, you know, it almost looks a little better out, but when we start looking at that option, a couple disadvantages to that is that Maple Creek Drive gets pretty steep. And there's, I believe in our rough, there's like 16% grade. So you're really not, when you turn people up Maple Creek, then you're turning them up like a 15, 16% grade, which isn't as bad as 28th, but it's still not good. So, and another disadvantage with the Maple Creek one is you send, the traffic goes into the town. That turns into a town road. Maple Creek Drive does. So, you know, there may be some opposition to that from the town residents and from the town itself. And the third option, or excuse me, the fourth option, I guess this is like the grand, so this is what the county was supposed to build. As you can see through there that the right-of-way is bought, so you would move over to 30th Ave and build it up 30th Ave. Obviously, this is the most expensive option. It flattens the road out, but you know, and then you're looking at this. I think this option did make sense back when the Village of Maine was going to continue 28th Avenue, and then they were gonna curve it back, so it would have had a natural. You know, if they would have continued the road and brought it back, it would have been a natural. But right now, if you do this option, you're teeing 28th Avenue into West Wausau Avenue. So if people want to continue up 28th, they would have to stop, take a right, take back a left. So, you know, kind of in my thinking, spending a lot of money to bring people up to a T, which I don't know that many people. You know, are they going to use this? Are they going to find an alternate route? Because now, if you want to go up 28th, you got to make 2 turns. So that just kind of lays out the 4 options we're looking at. There may be other options, but these are the 4 that we figured. And I know I'm not looking for a decision this night, but I just want to start thinking about these options and maybe some guidance to engineering. Do you think one option is totally off the table, or 2 options, or how do we want to present this to the public? Do we want to have a public informational meeting? Do you want cost estimates on some of these? I think, some guidance as to where you want me to. We have till 26, but I say we start, 26 is going to be here before we know it, so we need to maybe start looking at some of these decisions. So, thanks.
Alder Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, the public information meeting aspect is a really good idea. I'm not really that familiar with the lay of the land up there, how many residents there are that might be affected. Also, is there much there in the way of developable land? And, should that be part of our decision process of looking like towards the future? Do we see something could go up right over there, just so we need a good road there? And any thoughts on that, Ellen?
I think, as we look at, there is, the hospital does have Aspirus does have a bigger chunk of land. I don't know if you go north of there, Brad, with your cursor. Yeah, right up in there. So, if you look at, go to the next option, Brad, even if we're going up Madonna or Maple Hill Circle, all those options, you could still serve that parcel. Or that road could be, you could serve it off that cul-de-sac, Or if the need, you could extend the road later. I don't ever see, I mean, myself, the road between Maple Creek Drive and Mary Ann is the steepest part. I wouldn't think we'd want to, if we don't build it now, I'd go back to building it later. But that parcel could be served from the south. And I think one thing to look at too, and something to consider if we don't do the ultimate and go cross-country through there could be a lot of right-of-way in there that we could vacate and possibly sell back and develop some of those back into residential up on 29th and 30th. So I think there's some merit to not doing the ultimate build, which is the option 4, which we discussed.
Alder?
Thank you. I would make a motion to direct staff to engage in outreach to residents and stakeholders that might be affected by any of these, to gather information and you look at possible anticipated problems or whatever before we, think too hard about picking one of these options at this point. And the sooner the better, so that we can start looking at viable, options with feedback from people affected.
I don't want to second it, but I have some
All right.
more discussion.
I have a motion on the floor. Can I get a second from Alder Watson? So more discussion. Go ahead, Alder Larson.
Yeah, thank you. That road should not be traveled on. I mean, I was just on that road 2 days ago, and why it's not even closed, it's not even safe. Not for a motorcycle, a bicycle, let alone a car. It's not even safe. And I guess I have a couple questions here, and what kind of drainage problems is there on that hill? I mean, and can we do an overlay on that hill? With some, is that, or would that just be a Band-Aid fix? Because the way I see it right now, you need to cul-de-sac it right now, because that road should not be traveled on. It's just not safe. And I also got a call from a resident that said he wouldn't have a problem with cul-de-sacing it. That would put people to go around on Westwood Drive and stuff and put more traffic there. But we need to do something. We can't just put this off. We need to do something with that road now, whether you just overlay it to make it safe that people travel on, or cul-de-sac it, because you just can't wait another 2 years to let this thing go. And
Alan, any?
Well, I don't know,
answers
maybe
or
I'd look to our
questions?
DPW guys to come up and talk about if they're going to be doing some patching out there in the spring here. I know it's in rough shape. I mean, the drainage, it does kind of go down ditches down each side. An overlay is just a Band-Aid. It's just that, and it might even be too rough for that, but maybe we'll let Chad speak a little bit to that.
Chad, DPW supervisor. I know this last year, I think there was 1 or 2 water breaks on that too.
Yeah.
So that really affects what's underneath it. I know we have drain tile on the one side there, and basically we put all drain tile in there. This was a couple years ago. The water started coming out somewhere else, so it just keeps bubbling underneath there all the time, pushing that up and down, and then heaving in the wintertime, and that just wrecks everything as far as the infrastructure underneath.
okay, thank you. Then
Yep.
Do you have plans for patching out there? or-
As much as we
Much as you can, yeah.
Like you said, there too, it's kind of really steep for putting an overlay on it. That'd be like a temporary patch. It would probably start bubbling this next year again.
Well, even patching it is not, it's just not safe. I mean, patching's not gonna work. It's beyond that even. I mean, it's just not a safe
There's
road.
patch on patch on patch
Yeah,
there.
it's just
Yep,
not a safe road, period.
Yep, it's bad, yep.
So I'm not gonna be in favor of the motion, because I think something needs to be done now, because that road is just not simply safe. I mean, even if we just cul-de-sac it for now and then look forward to what we should do in the future with it, because it's just not safe.
And we had in the past, a couple of years ago, we used to shut it down in the wintertime because it's really unsafe for our trucks too. So that's a viable thing, just to shut the road down, because there's really not a lot of access off that road anyway that goes up there too.
Well, yeah, then if you're gonna shut the road down for your trucks, then why don't we just shut it down for traffic?
Right, it would be nice on our part, I know that for our plow truck drivers.
I don't know that that was an item now to shut it down. It really wasn't on the agenda.
Alder Martins?
Option 5,
Yeah,
yeah.
I guess, I do know, yeah, this road, there's a reason why they call it Old Steepy, and I do agree with Lou on it. It is an unsafe road. But my concern about cul-de-sacing it now is, and also with options 2 and 3, is that now we start diverting traffic onto other streets that, even though there's 1,700 cars a day, they're not intended to carry that load, even if it's dispersed out, especially with that humongous church at the top of the hill. I'd be in favor of some type of community engagement on how we address this issue, be it cul-de-sac now, or look at a viable option to fix it into the future.
I think something has to be done in a permanent state to reconstruct this. I mean, what we do in the temporary can be discussed. I guess we can bring that back. Just to talk about diversion of traffic, 32nd Avenue from West Hill, or actually from Hilltop to West Wausau Avenue was reconstructed, in the last 10 years. So 32nd Avenue is a good roadway. And just if you're talking about diversion of traffic. And also, Westwood Drive, if you look at how many people, I took a look at the ADT on Westwood Drive, it's only 1,700 cars. So if you look, that could handle what Bridge Street does, like 16,000, so.
Westwood is that's 4 lanes.
Right. So the hope, or the thought would be if you're coming in on U or K and you want to get down to the area, hopefully you would, instead of turning off on 28th, you would wait to get to Westwood and take Westwood down.
Is 32nd, is that a city street?
Yes, 30, for the most part, there's a small section of town in there that the city rebuilt for them several years ago. But there is, if you can see it on the red lines and some, there is a small section, about a half a block in there that's in the town.
So that red line indicates what's in the township?
Correct, and the city made the choice to rebuild that when we rebuilt that whole stretch. So
Okay. Thank you.
we did a portion of the town.
Alder Larson?
I guess in the best regards for safety and on that road, could I make an amendment to the motion?
Sure. Or maybe another motion afterwards? Or, go ahead. Amendment to the motion, go ahead.
Well, I'd like to amend the motion to cul-de-sac the road for now and to get public engagement and show them what plans we have in the future to see if they want to continue with that road or other plans. But, if it's not safe for our city trucks to go on, it's definitely not safe for motorcycles or cars or bicycles.
My only concern is it's agendized as possible action on reconstruction alternatives. I don't know if that's an alternative or not.
Well, we'd have
It's
to
just
ask
closing the road.
ask our legal advice. Perhaps we could ask our legal advice on.
Okay, I'll give I have your amendment in
Okay.
hand. We'll see what comes. But I'll just say, this is in my district, and I know I drive it all the time, going the back way to work, and yeah, it's horrendous. And I support doing community outreach and getting this ball rolling as fast as possible.
What was the exact wording of the amendment?
To cul-de-sac the road until we get, for the sake of safety, cul-de-sac the road until we get public,
And by the road, you mean 28th?
yes.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I think it's germane, because you're talking about possible reconstruction, and cul-de-sacing is kind of a construction. I'd be okay with that.
So that would actually be closing that roadway to traffic.
Well,
Like us putting up barricades and closing that
I
road
mean, if
to
you want to be
traffic.
sure that you get proper public input on it, you might want to do that before you make the motion.
Well, I
mean,
guess-
It's a,
My concern is safety, somebody falls off on a motorcycle, bicycle, somebody ruins their car. So it's a horse apiece. I mean,
Would it be okay if we agendized it for next month?
that's your safest thing to do. I mean, these are all questions of interpretation. How does, Eric's thinking closing is different than reconstruction. I'm wondering if it isn't germane, but, I do think people who are looking at the agenda might not have expected that, and you may want to do some, public notice or get some input before you do that, and people are coming in here and they're very upset that they didn't know that was going to happen. So I guess my final recommendation would be bring it back,
okay.
that item, and let people know about it and give them notice. It's just the best thing, I think, to do.
Well, then I'll remove my amendment,
Okay.
but let's bring it back, and let's bring it back quick, because we can't sit on this. This is a dangerous situation, and it needs action now.
Yep,
So
I agree.
I will go with the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion to direct staff to begin community outreach and with this project. And from Alder Neal, and a second from Alder Watson. Any more discussion? Alder
I
Neal?
would just add that, in terms of community outreach, I don't think this needs to be a widespread, campaign. I think we need to, look at property owners, stakeholders along that road as the population you want to zero in on. Beyond that, I don't know who else you would ask.
I think might be Aspirus. I think they're going to have an interest in, I don't know how they're going to react to it, but I think they might be a pretty big player in this, since they
Probably.
own a lot of properties up there.
Probably that church too, considering the size of it.
Yeah, and just we can start the public outreach campaign, and we can work with Lori to get out notices and that, but I don't think that's going to happen before the next meeting. Just with the timing of this all, I don't know how we can get to get, I don't know what you think, Eric, and then I think,
Yeah, I mean, we might have some communication. I mean, we can definitely put it back on the agenda for a discussion, but I don't know if we're going to have all of the public outreach and
Well,
those meetings set up.
What's
so.
what's the committee here? What's the committee's thoughts here? 60 days, 90 days, 30 days to bring it back?
My thought is that we really concentrate on those parties that are most obviously possibly impacted. I don't know that we have to go all the way up to the church necessarily, because they're not adjacent to this stretch of road, are they? Aren't they further up the road, north of this stretch?
yes, they're north
Right.
of, they're north of Wausau Avenue.
So, I mean, their interest is going to be in terms of, access further along. But, my concern is there anybody along this stretch that can't get on their property anymore? Is that an issue? I don't know. So I really concentrate on those immediate people impacted.
Alder Watson?
Can't we do some kind of press release or something that we're going to discuss this at our next meeting about closing that road? And then just do the public outreach for just feedback on the options? That way, anybody impacted would know about it.
Sure, and I guess, is it possible to agendize it as a public input session during the next meeting? I guess that would cover a
You
lot
mean
of our
like a
bases.
public hearing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know what's all entailed in getting notices out for that.
I don't think it would be a public hearing, but it'd be a public input session.
Yeah.
Public hearings are typically only held when it's deals with assessments and such, but we could do a public input meeting. You know, we could have some display boards set up. Another option is to do it, you know, do a open house maybe prior to. But if you just want to discuss the closure in the, I don't know, there's a lot of ways to go with it. You know, if you're looking at the closing it because of safety is one thing, but if you're looking at closing it long term, then that's kind of another issue. I mean, I don't know if there's, I think we could go to the public input. This is just my personal feelings and look to, you know, if we think that is a safety issue and close it before winter, and try and maintain it the rest of the summer and let people know that it's going to be closed the winter and then we're going to reconstruct it in 26. That's another option. I guess there's a lot of ways to go with it. I didn't anticipate closing it down this quickly. I just brought these options here for everybody to discuss, so it kind of caught me off guard.
Well, I'm sorry if I caught you
Oh,
off
go
guard,
ahead,
but I
of
mean,
course.
this thing is, we've been kicking the can on this long enough, and, you know, before something drastically gets hurt on that hill, we need to do something, and do something now.
So I think we could agendize it at the next meeting or the meeting, I guess let staff maybe kick it around and then maybe get back to Chad or something like that. But we'll definitely get some public outreach out there to, for the final design.
Thank you, Alan.
Any further discussion? All right, I got a motion from Alder Neal, seconded by Alder Watson, to direct staff to begin community outreach and possibly have public input session at the next meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That passes. All right. On to agenda item number 11, 2025 proposed facility capital projects. Eric?
Yeah, so when this committee previously had talked about wanting to know what projects we were proposing for the 2025 capital rankings coming up here in June. And so these are some of our facility projects that we've prepared and that we're proposing. And we wanted to, just based on the feedback from the committee at that time, that they wanted to see these actually before they were presented to for ranking. And we may have one or two more coming as well, but these are the ones that we know of right now that will be coming to the CIP committee for their rankings.
All right, thank you. I know this was kind of talked about, every committee should probably look at anything going on the CIP list just to
Right.
make sure anything that crosses over is discussed in those committees. So
Yeah.
thank you for putting the list together. Any
Sure.
questions, discussion, changes? Alder Larson, go
I
ahead.
guess it seems kind of odd to have to put garage doors on buildings that we won't be using hopefully for much longer, but if it's needed, it's needed, you know?
Right, I think these are some of the doors that these are the buildings that we're planning on continuing to use,
Oh, okay.
right? You know, so we're trying to
Sure.
focus on those, but yeah, I understand what you're saying, yeah.
In the DPW garage doors, there were 4 replaced, right, Leo? There were 4 replaced, and they turned out really nice, so this would be continuing that down. There was a plan at one time to replace, you know, keep it going. So I think the 4 that were replaced work well, and it's just kind of continuing that effort.
Okay.
I'll make a
Uh,
motion to,
I don't think we need, I think this was just a discussion for this. I don't think we
Yeah, so-
need to, unless you want to change something, Alder Larson.
Or
I think if you wanted to change or add something, then we would,
no,
Okay.
I'm good.
no action
Right.
on it. Yeah. Okay. No more discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 12. Adoption of the Safe Routes to School Plan as prepared by North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. And, oh my goodness, they're there.
We're gonna tag
ahead,
team
guys.
this.
Okay.
This is, so there's a memo in your packet, and the following page, there's a link to this plan. So we had enough problems with the packet tonight. We didn't want to add a couple hundred more pages. But this is something that's been long in the works, and we have Fred Heider from North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning to talk about the Safe Routes to School plan that he has put together. And I'm happy to answer any questions, so take it away.
Very good. All right. Thank you. So this was 3 mayoral administrations ago that we started the process, 2018. And then 2022, we were able to start. That's when WISDOT told us, you've got the green light. Why did we start this? Because the city wanted to know, they've got projects all over, and how can we make them safer, because we've got a lot of schools in the city. So that's why we're focusing on the Wausau schools that are in the city of Wausau, all up and down the Wisconsin River that are touching the Wisconsin River, and both middle schools. And so then as the city constructs or reconstructs roads, makes improvements, they can look at this plan and go, all right, this is how we can make it safer in this area. And Safe Routes to School as a whole is a process of encouraging families to get their kids to walk or bike. And we can do that through a whole variety of things. We can flip to the next slide. So why Safe Routes to School? Less kids are walking and biking. And so more parents are driving their kids, even if they're within a quarter mile of school. A lot of kids are within a mile of school. That's how currently the elementary schools in Wausau are designed. Obviously, the school district was a partner on this. They helped me get a lot of the data, but they'll be closing some of the schools, and those boundaries will obviously increase. But hopefully within a mile, that's a comfortable distance for a lot of kids to walk or bike. And that's why I'm focusing on that. So then you have less parent drop-offs, and it makes the area around schools safer for the kids that are walking. But even if we couldn't change a lot of the parents' minds, some of them, we can get the areas around the schools to be safer right now with the current levels of drop-offs and walkers. And then we can do encouragement things and get more kids walking or biking. All right, flip it. These are the schools in the Wausau Safe Routes to School plan. It's all 8 elementary schools along the Wisconsin River and both middle schools. Next slide. So the data. We've got homeroom tallies that produced all of this data about, let me look at my sheet here. We've got about at least 11% are walking to school right now, with at least about 3% biking to and from school. And you see a difference between, let's say in the walking division and the family vehicles. You can see in the morning, there's less people walking and more people getting dropped off, more kids getting dropped off by family vehicle. And then in the afternoon, as parents are already at work still, then there's less of them picking up their kids, 6% less. And this is district-wide of the Safe Routes to School schools. And so a lot of those kids are taking the school bus or walking because they really are that close. So that's a little potential right there that those kids be walking the whole time, or a whole bunch of other kids. Next slide. So we asked the parents, well, why are you not allowing your kid to walk or bike to school. And over 700 households responded, which was excellent data for us. Over 40 for most schools, 40 surveys returned. So that's really good data for me to figure out. Distance was number one. So if you're at the mile and a half, I can't do anything about that. So we've got Metro Ride that they could be using to get in if they don't want to walk or bike. And Metro Ride also has the express routes too. So more of that could be used. So that's the way to solve distance. Safety at intersections and crossings, amount of traffic along the routes, those are number 2 and number 3, and speed of traffic along the routes. I can work with all of that. So those are all things that I can affect through infrastructure changes and also education. And so I've got that built into the plan. Weather and climate, I can't change anything about the weather, but Duluth and Superior have over a decade of Safe Routes to School implementation, and they have kids walking and biking, and they've got snowfalls basically every other night, weekly throughout the winter, and they have a lot of walking in the wintertime. So we can easily do it here. Next slide. And then within a quarter mile, 40% of kids are walking right now, and this is across all the schools that are in the plan. So a quarter mile, that's 3 blocks. That's easy even for the littlest of kids. I'm not talking about pre-kindergarten, but first grade through third grade elementary school classes. So a quarter mile, 3 blocks, and it's not necessarily walking by yourself, but this just shows that we have huge potential. This is the family vehicle dropping off the other, basically half of the kids. And so that's a really strong element of people that we could possibly get to walk. They could even walk their kid because it's so close and then get back and probably drive to work. Not everyone, obviously, but even if they don't have time, as the parents and guardians don't have time, maybe it's a walking school bus, informal or formal, so that everyone feels comfortable, including the kid, including the parent and guardian. And so a whole group of neighborhood kids could be walking, pick up an additional kid along the way, and that's all within 3 blocks of the school. That's a quarter mile. And then we've got a little more, quarter to a half mile. The amount of kids right now walking drops off by half, and more kids are getting dropped off by their parent or guardian. And so those are the real low-hanging fruit, the short distances that we could encourage right now, if it's safe to do so, that you can feel comfortable allowing your kid to walk or bike. And then here's another part on the parent survey that we put out there. The closer you get to school, the more kids ask their parents to walk or bike to school. So that's 70% within a quarter mile, but only 40% are walking right now. So maybe it's something that is a teaching moment that maybe the parents don't feel safe because they've never taught their kid. They don't know how to teach their kid how to walk or bike to school. And so there's a resource that I have online. It's a national resource by grade of how to teach your kid to walk safely, just 2 blocks, or to school, to the neighbor's house that might be a block away. So that's a feature that's online and is directed in the plan as well. And then we get to the maps. Each school has a set of 4 maps and a whole bunch of panels that might be engineering ideas. So the site assessment maps have a whole bunch of drawings on them, and this shows where the current infrastructure is around each of the schools, usually within about a block of the school or right on the school. So it shows where the crossing guards are, where the student safety patrol is, sidewalks, as I said, and also the school zones, which is the yellow highlight area. And so that's just a base point of where everything is. Sure, there might be a new driveway at this middle school in the future, but this is the basic infrastructure. And so this is the starting point, and this was acquired during the walk audit that I did with either the principal at the school or a main staff member. And that's how, along with my own air photo interpretation, walking the school properties, that's how I created this map. Then we've got the next map, which is the transportation maps, and this goes out a little farther, several blocks in any direction. It shows the permanent Metro ride routes. It does not show the express routes, but on the site assessment map, it shows at each of the bus stops, it shows if X6 or X route, the express routes are physically stop at a certain location. But this transportation shows the whole grid of streets. And so if it has a sidewalk or not, that's also listed. And if there are crashes, pedestrian and bicycle crashes with vehicles in the last decade up through 2022, that is on here as well. And then the next map is the school routes. And so this has got a lot of arrows. This was basically the shortest route to school as a person would walk. So I used a Google map, put a pin on the school, and then put another pin somewhere, drug it out to a 1 mile walk distance as the roads are aligned, and just picked it throughout the neighborhoods. And this is how each of the shortest distance, basically. And then the red lines show where there's maybe a concentration of pedestrians where they would be coming in. And this is really helpful to identifying, oh, we don't have a crossing guard where this red arrow is. Maybe we should have one there. And that would be a very simple improvement. Now, I'll cut to the chase right as we have this map right now. We've got a lot of crossing guards, and they're in the right positions right now. Flip to the next map, and that's recommendations. So we've got a lot of text on this map, a lot of symbols, and so some of this is easy to do, some of it's long-term. And so each of these bullet points of text, it could be on the school property itself, like maybe an improvement to the bike racks, or maybe it's a sidewalk adjacent to the school, or maybe we're changing a school zone so that it's more impactful because it needs to be right next to the school versus some distance away, where people don't know that it's actually near a school yet. And we need it to be safe at the intersections, because a lot of the sidewalks are a good distance off the road. It's not like other municipalities that I've dealt with that have the sidewalk right on the road and no parking lane, and those are less safe. It encourages drivers to go faster because they don't feel that the kid on the sidewalk right next to their travel lane is a danger to them because they're on the sidewalk. All the sidewalks in the city basically are grade separated off and have tree buffers and grass and are very well designed. So having sidewalks and really the crossings are what I focused on. And so we'll keep it on this map, but going back and thinking about all those red and yellow arrows, I made sure that several blocks away, if there was a red arrow, that all the crossings to get that neighborhood of yellow arrows to the school passing along that one road, that made that, to make that one road safer. For sure, all the crossings safer, as safe as possible. So those are a whole variety of ways that I went about designing this. They're inside of the plan itself by school are a number of recommendations, and I'm not saying which ones to do first or last. What I did identify is if it takes a short amount of time to do the task, or if it takes a medium amount of time. So short, probably it's a policy change. It could be done within a year or two, or maybe it's paint on the road, making an intersection crosswalk instead of the two parallel lines. Maybe it's a high visibility painting that can be done in less than 2 years for a nominal cost versus ripping up a road kind of thing. And so that's a low. A medium might take 4 years. We might have to do some engineering on it. And then a long term is well beyond 5 years and might take a federal grant to help the city pay for the improvement. So that's the short, medium, and long term. But then where to start? So then, this is a massive document, about 2 inches big, if I let it flurl out. So it's got a lot of information to support city and school district to do things. But because it's so massive, I've got a little thing at the start of each recommendation section as to where to start. The CDC has put out a paper research paper showing that schools with at least 26% that walk or bike have implemented 3 easy, low-cost strategies that a lot of schools don't have. And so the 3 strategies are to have crossing guards. Wausau has crossing guards, a lot of them, and in basically the right places. Have bike racks. All the city schools have bike racks. Maybe they need upgrades, but the bike racks are there right now. And then to have promotional materials. Now, a lot of schools probably don't have the promotional materials, and it's really just encouragement materials, and that's what the CDC is talking about. But all those are low-cost things, because if it's safe to walk or bike right now, all you need is some encouragement documentation, maybe how to walk to school for the parent or guardian so that they feel comfortable teaching their kid. And maybe it all starts with a walk or bike to school day event. And so then it puts everything into motion. Either October is a walk and roll to school, or yesterday was the national bike and roll to school day. But it's really the month of October, month of May is really an annual way to, sure, you're going for one day and making it safe. What does that mean? Maybe there's training brought in for the parents, or these brochures are handed out that teach the parents about how to walk with their kids to school and encourage them to do so, or how to bike. And then it's also on the engineering side. You look at this plan, and maybe there's a couple of intersections that could use some barricades or cones for the week to make it safer, to provide temporary bump outs. That's why we don't do this in wintertime, so they can stay there for the whole week. And it provides a safer temporary environment, and then maybe the long term, 10 years out, or when the road is reconstructed, maybe curb bump outs at the intersection are needed. And I'm not recommending that for every intersection. But this plan, along with an annual walk or bike walk and roll to school day event, gets everyone thinking on the same page as to, oh, this is a area of concern, and we've got a lot of people wanting to walk from this neighborhood. Then you look at the plan, make it safe for that walk to school, bike to school day event, and then that keeps the wheels turning and budgets moving forward with, oh, let's pick that intersection first to make a more permanent improvement. So WISDOT uses this kind of plan as if they're redoing a road, state highway, as to what improvements they should be making. Do they always make it verbatim to the plan? No, of course not. And that's good to know as city staff, because things change in the future, not just school closings, but maybe there's better information, or maybe the money isn't there right now, kind of thing. So it's reason to ask for a grant, or maybe a better idea comes 10 years down the road, which is another thing. This plan doesn't statutorily expire, but after 10 years, it's WISDOT allows redoing it with grant money. So now open up to questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, discussions? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to pop in. I was really impressed with the amount of information that Fred gathered with this, both in the site assessments that he did, and as well as the feedback he got from the parents, the students, and the staff at the schools. There are some elements, because it is kind of a cooperation with the school district, there's some elements in there that are probably more attuned to what the school district may do. A lot of successful safe routes plans, they find a champion at each school to kind of be the captain of that school and drive the efforts there. But like Fred mentioned, when it comes to the street right-of-way, signage, school zones, markings on the road, or further reconstructions, that's really where this plan comes in. And as we're looking to reduce streets or areas, or to apply for grants, which having a plan like this would allow us to do, that's where we could look to this, see what we need to do or could do, and know that it has some good reasoning and data behind it. So really this evening we're looking to get this accepted by this committee and move it on ahead for adoption. So
I'll just add, I'm the bike champion at work, and I've had a lot of lonely bike rides into work by myself. So,
School bus.
any other questions, discussions? Alder
I'll just give
Martins?
a quick comment. Yeah, it's good to see this plan finally come to fruition. I vaguely remember it back in 2018 when I was first on the council, when we started talking about this. So it's just surprising how long these things actually do take. So it's good to see this here, and I do like that. If when we adopt this moving forward, when we look at street reconstruction projects, that this is one of the items that's going to be taken into consideration when we do those roads, because even though this is targeted to kids walking to school, good routes, both bike and pedestrian routes, positively impact all of the citizens within this community. So it's I'm looking forward to adopting this.
I guess I got one question, and I think I know the answer to it already, but I just want to throw it out there. This plan doesn't hold us to any of these recommendations or any of these upgrades. Any upgrades, I'm assuming, would come back before us or the school district.
Yeah, correct. I mean, this is a guide, so even if it says, put in a 10-foot sidewalk, the city is not bound to put in a 10-foot sidewalk at any location or to do any of this. Just like WISDOT, it's a WISDOT plan, so they look at it as well, and so it doesn't bind WISDOT either. They're reviewing it right now, and they've gotten no comments back to me, so that's a good sign as well. But I've been doing these, just to elaborate 5 more seconds, please. I've been doing these since 2010, cooperating with WISDOT on these. WISDOT has provided me national pedestrian safety training, and they also have me on their, I'm the only person from north central Wisconsin on the statewide task force for updating the 2050 bike and pedestrian improvement guide, which the engineers will know as the FDM. So I'm on that stakeholders group right now.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? I guess, are we looking for a motion to adopt this? Okay, so I'd be looking for a motion to adopt. Okay,
So
I got-
I'll make a motion to adopt the Safe Routes to School plan.
All right, I have a motion to adopt the plan from Alder Mertens, second from Alder Neal. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. Okay. And one more, I think. We'll move on to agenda item number 13, discussion and possible action on approval of revised Green Tree Meadows preliminary map plat. Alan?
Yes. So this committee and council approved the original Green Tree Meadow plat, which is the first of the 2 plats. I don't know if, Brad, are you going to pull those up? And I think one of the concerns that, even though it was approved, that staff had is, if you look on the lower left side of the plat off of 72nd, there was 4 long skinny lots that would have been residential, and those would have been 4 driveways coming out onto 72nd Avenue. So we worked with, and actually, the city agreed to sell to Green Trees a little bit of the industrial park area there. So now there's enough room there for the developer to put a road and cul-de-sac. So now you have one entry point onto 72nd, and they've created like a dozen lots. So one other minor move there is Cherrywood Drive coming off of 72nd was kind of straightened out, but that would have been minor, and that wouldn't have required this preliminary plat coming back. Because you can make minor changes going from the preliminary plat to the final plat. But as staff and talking to our city surveyor felt that it was too big of a change to go from the preliminary to the final. We had to approve another preliminary plat because they're actually adding land to the plat and creating another road. So but the city agreed to sell them the land to do this, so I would assume that we'd be favorable to them to doing this plat or this revision. So I would recommend approving the preliminary plat.
Any discussion? Is that a motion, Alder Neal?
I would make a motion to accept the revision to the plat.
Okay, I have a motion from Alder Neal. Do I have a second? Second from Alder Larson. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. Okay. And we'll move on to the last agenda item, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Alder Neal, we'll keep it going. Second. From Alder Mertens. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
This is done.